Welcome to the state of the ASA. Come on in, get settled. We'll start in just a few seconds here. All right, welcome. I'm Michael Everest, current chair of the board. It's great to have you here. It's been a fantastic meeting. Here's our agenda for this evening. I'll give a report, and then we'll hear from the treasurer, executive team. We'll hear from Janelle and Vicky. We'll hear about the new fellows, longstanding members who are in glory now, have some remembrances of them, some CWIS awards, Student and Campus Minister Awards, some news about scholarship recipients and an appeal for help there, and then everyone's been waiting to hear the pitch for the meeting next year. So we'll have that, and then some Q&A as well. So as I mentioned, I'm the current chair of the board of directors. And I'm actually the first chair ever. You may recall that we just switched from having an executive council with a president to having a board of directors with a chair, and there were some similar changes in the leadership. Almost the first chair. You may have seen that my colleague Steve Katakis and I did a workshop introducing new attendees to the ASA, and so I was brushing up on the history, and the records actually show that guy was elected chairman at the very first meeting where the ASA was formed in 1941, and he's actually my grandfather. This was at... This was at the Westmont. Who was at that meeting? Who was at Westmont College in 1997? I've had several conversations with folks who were there. There's a former student of Steve Mosier here. It was my wife of, I think, 3 years then, and it's her 29th anniversary today. So she's driving back from, thank you, She's driving back from dropping our kid off at camp right now, so she's not watching. So I was elected chair in April 23. So that was kind of a fun little coincidence of history. But then this was kind of odd. Even though he was elected chairman, the minutes record in September, when they ratified the first Constitution, it was president. And it had been president until a year ago. So that was kind of some fun history. Also, in getting ready for that workshop, I noticed this. This was the entire statement of faith in that first Constitution. And it says, I cannot conceive of discrepancies between statements in the Bible and of the real facts of science. Accordingly, trusting in the Lord Jesus Christ, the Son of God, my Savior, for strength, I pledge myself as a member to this organization and the furtherance of its task. And really, this resonated with me because that has always been my attitude toward faith and science. Many of you have had, stories, or you may have known young people where they came to some crisis. I always just had the assumption that everything was going to be okay in the end, and it's fun to talk about and disagree about the details in the context of the ASA. I'm particularly grateful we could disagree, because if I had to agree with John Wood on everything, then we'd both be wrong. So there's no point in that. Okay, here's your, so it is a blessing to be able to disagree in the context of an organization of Christians in the sciences. Here's your current board of directors. Say Kim is our vice chair. Ifat Zaidan is our secretary. Unfortunately, neither of them were able to attend this meeting, but you have been interacting with Dom. Mike Beidler is our chair, and Catherine and Robert and Bob were just recently inducted, and this was our first in-person meeting, so it's great to have them on the board and to maintain a CSCA member as well on our board. So we're really thrilled with our current board. Here's what we've been working on to let you know. We have had a long, gradual transition from what you might call a working board, where the board was very active in things like planning the annual meeting and various aspects of running the organization, and a relatively small staff. We've been moving toward having more of a policy board with an oversight role and some fiduciary duties to the members, and then a larger, more professional staff who's running the day-to-day operations, participating, much more involvement in planning the meeting and things like that. So this is kind of this is probably a decade-long transition, maybe 15 years, but we're mindful of that, and we're wanting to do that well. When Janelle came on as our president, they asked for Janelle and Vicki had asked for a shared leadership model, and so they have a dual report to the board. So that's something that's a little bit different and new in the structure of the organization. I think actually even John was instrumental in that transition as well. We've been working on a board manual to get all of our policies in one place, so we have something to improve and work from instead of being kind of more of an oral culture and where is that document. This was extremely helpful in orienting our new board members, and so that was kind of its first real trial by fire. That's still a work in progress. And we're also working on a code of conduct. If a member has a grievance against another member, feels like they've been mistreated in a meeting or something like that, just to get the level of professionalism in our member organization up to best practices. So that's something else that we're looking at. So one of the main things that a board does is we safeguard the mission. So I had to put this in front of you. This is from our current bylaws and Constitution and bylaws. Section 2 of Article 1 is the objectives. And you'll see that we integrate and interpret the discoveries of natural and social sciences, insights from Scripture and Christian theology. We communicate scientific knowledge and so on to threefold: to the public, the scientific community, and to the church. And we provide fellowship. I looked at the verbs in here, and it's just great stuff. Great stuff that is our call and our objectives in this organization. And many of you have been enjoying the fellowship here this weekend. And finally, we engage scientific colleagues in matters of faith and scholarship. That's kind of the official print in the bylaws. John started this, and we have some really slick things, and I think Janelle's going to say a little bit more detail, but this is currently how we're presenting and talking about the mission, vision, and values of the organization. So I'm not going to steal Janelle's thunder on that. But I think I'd use my time here to just give a little pep talk. And if we think of who needs us, right? For whom do we exist? How are we uniquely positioned to serve? I think young believers need us. And looking even at the earliest documents of the ASA, this was central to our mission. We can communicate to young scientists, young believers, that it is possible to be a Christian and a scientist. My philosopher friends tell me there's many ways to prove something is possible. One way to prove something is possible is if it is actual. If it really exists, it must be possible. And here we are. So we can communicate to young believers that it is indeed possible to be a top scientist and a sincere believer. I think scientists, believing scientists, and secular universities and industry need us. Many of you would fall under that description, and you need us for fellowship. That's in our objectives, and I think that's why you're here, and I'm glad you're here, and I think you have colleagues and coworkers who also need this fellowship, and I would encourage you to serve them through the organization. And scientists at Christian colleges need us. We have expectations to do to look at connections between our specific disciplines and the Christian faith. So for scholarship and professional development, our members who are on faculties at Christian colleges need us. And finally, I think the church needs us. We need to maintain a credible witness. And there are some great, very historic writings. Maybe some of you know the passage of Augustine where he says, if people outside the church hear us speaking nonsense about things they know to be true, how will they believe us when we talk about the resurrection of the dead, the kingdom of God, the hope of eternal life? So I think we have an important role to play in the church in helping them with science. So the ASA needs you. We are a member organization. You are the ones who accomplish the mission. So I hope you have some inspiration in all of that, and you can see how you can accomplish some of these, and I hope that the ASA can come alongside and empower you to make that happen. So that's the report from the board chair. There will be time for questions later if you have questions for any of us, but now I'm going to hand it off to Mike Byler for our treasurer report.
All right, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay? All right. Well, this year, I think, is the first year in a long time, if at all, that we've got a split treasurer and secretary role. And I asked Michael to do some homework in looking back at the history of the ASA to see if there was ever just a single treasurer position. I asked him what the results were, and he blank stare on his face. I said, "Where's your homework?" And he said, "His dog ate it." And I asked him where his dog is, and he told me he doesn't have a dog. So, either way, so last year, you, the members, voted to amend the ASA's constitution to split the duties of secretary and treasurer. So those two responsibilities now rest on two different shoulders. And I've been on the finance committee since 2018, so I assume I was a natural pick to run the books. So in short, my treasurer role involves overseeing the management and the reporting of the financial affairs of the ASA. I also have to ensure that a report is submitted to you, the members, at the annual meeting, this is what I'm doing now, to cover those activities and finances of the ASA during the past year. And so we've just passed a fiscal year. So April 1st was the beginning of fiscal year 24. I also have to keep or cause to keep complete and accurate account of all of our monies, funds, and ASA property. So, I don't know if I can do this without your help and your support. So, but I appreciate the trust that you've placed in me. So, second thing is we kicked off last summer our legacy campaign. That was the public phase. It was silent before, but we came out publicly last summer with a target goal of about $5 million. And I'm happy to report that as of this month, we reached $3.2 million for that legacy campaign. Let's hit 5 by next week. Okay, so keep the pledges coming. We've also continued our membership in the Evangelical Council for Financial Accountability. This is huge. The ECFA was founded in 1979 and today accredits organizations that collectively represent about $30 billion, $38 billion in annual revenue. And that enhances trust in Christ-centered ministries and churches by establishing and applying certain standards of responsible stewardship to accredited organizations. And so by retaining that membership, that gives us accreditation as long as we faithfully demonstrate compliance with all of those established standards for financial accountability, for transparency, for fundraising, and also for board governance. So again, ECFA, we are going to continue our membership so that you have trust in us, that we are wisely stewarding the funds. We also adopted earlier this year a 3-month operational cash reserve policy that provides some organizational stability. As everyone knows, back in March of 2020, we got hit with the pandemic. We were not able to do our traditional annual meeting that year, and I will show you on another chart how much we rely on the income from that meeting for our operations. So we set a goal for ourselves. It's an aggressive goal that by the end of March, that would be fiscal year 28, of $180,000 operational reserve. Now, last year, or last year, we had an operational reserve of about $78,000. We had to tap into that operational reserve about $30,000, partially due to because of lower than anticipated attendance at the 2022 meeting. So how are we doing this year? Doing pretty good. So hopefully we won't have to tap too much into that operational reserve. But again, that is going to provide us a lot of stability in the future going forward. We have also decreased the publication frequency of our journal. This is to help reduce expenses and also to help our staff focus on this meeting and allow the annual meeting to be of greater value to you. It removes some of the workload off their shoulders, but we don't want to sacrifice content either. So you will see that when we move to that 3 issues a year model, that we're not going to be sacrificing content. So they may be a little thicker, right? Also, we have increased our dues for the first time in, I want to say, almost a decade. That would align us better with other analogous professional organizations. And what I have heard so far from you all is hardly a complaint at all. And I think that's because you guys see the value in the American Scientific Affiliation. You see value in it, and you're willing to invest your money and your time to make this the best possible organization. And lastly, as Michael mentioned before, the expenses that the board of directors is dedicating toward creating, maintaining, and sustaining professional staff can only add to the value of your membership as the organization both reaches out to the world at large to increase the size of the organization's impact, but also reaches within to you, the members, to assist you in increasing the size of your impact within your respective spheres of influence. So that is the report that I'm giving you today on the state of our finances, and I'm going to leave you with what I call an angry slide. Yeah, a lot of details here. Let me get the, right up there is our fiscal year 23 revenue. Total revenue of $519,000. You can see that a majority of our income is by contributions and grants. There's the ASA annual meeting. Dues and subscriptions. That's a huge chunk. And right there is just our investment income. As we move down to our expenses, $540,000. There's about a $30,000 difference, and that is the $30,000 we had to tap into our operating reserve to cover. And there's our program expenses, $453,000. It takes about $500,000 to put this on. There's our 24 budget, $596,000. And our total expenses, we're budgeting for $596,000. I think we've got about somebody do the math, I'm not good at math. What is that? 141? All right, I'll take you all out to Dairy Queen. You can share a Blizzard between like 50 of you. And I think we can make that up, so. All right, that's all I have for you today, so.
I'm going to say a few things about what we've been up to this year and also remind you of our mission. And this is our strategic vision model, and this is all over the website, and you'll see this everywhere. This model helps us daily remember to stay focused on our mission. And our mission really is to serve our members, and it particularly in 3 areas: through advancing scholarship and scholarly opportunities for our members, and we do this through the journals, through the chapters and affiliates, and through programming like Diving Deeper. We also do professional development and formation, and this is an increasing area of focus. So for example, at this conference, we had 2 new workshops. One that was on we call it the ASA 101, about the introduction to faith and science, so that new people can understand, start to get a sense of the lay of the land, and then one on developing a scholarly life, and there will be more that will be coming. And then, of course, fellowship and community building, as Michael has talked about, is central to our mission, and we do this everywhere. I see it in this meeting where people are praying for one another. We have a prayer committee that regularly prays for the members and also the staff and pastoral care that takes place. One of our continued and increasing emphases, well, let me go back. And we do all of this with values of intellectual humility, courageous curiosity, and radical hospitality. One of the great things I heard today is somebody said to me, "This is the friendliest meeting I've been to." An academic meeting where people are really friendly with each other. This is great. And an increased emphasis is working with many partners and forming many collaborations. So here's just a sample of the organizations with which we work. And I want to stop and take a minute to just ask anybody who is involved in any of these organizations, works for these organizations, or any others we collaborate with, to just stand a minute. Thank you. Let's give them a hand. It's essential to our mission to work with all our other partners. So I'm going to turn it over to my better half, which is Vicki Best.
Thanks, Janelle. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see you all out. We got a good crowd tonight. I'm going to be talking about the operational highlights of the ASA over the last year or so in the areas of programming activities, member services, development and resources, and our team. Starting first with programming activities, God in His providence through COVID thrust us into a new that's been very beneficial to us. Starting with an annual meeting that went online, as you all know. And that was a huge success. And moving forward, last year we were in San Diego. This is our second meeting in person. And so like Mike has mentioned, the annual meeting is a big part of our programming activities. You're going to hear at the end of this meeting where we'll be next year. So we continue to use the annual meeting as again, a big part of our business model. Secondly, diving deeper discussions came about during COVID. It was Randy Isaac's brainchild, and it's been a real hit. Randy meets every month. Second Saturday of the month at 2 o'clock. If you haven't checked out Diving Deeper, please do so. But it's a wonderful way to come in and talk about articles and book reviews in the journal. And Randy's going to use the next couple of meetings related to this annual meeting. So again, please join us for that. Another great opportunity that the ASA has is our Career Center. How many of you are aware of our Career Center? Raise your hand if you are. Okay, few of you are. Our Career Center is a robust resource for both job seekers and employers. So check it out. It's really got a lot of great aspects of it, and we're going to be rolling that out more publicly over the coming months. But again, that's a great opportunity for our members. Fourthly is our winter symposium. We are going to, this winter, the last Saturday in January, we're going to bring in Elaine Howard Eklund. Again, this is an opportunity for us to witness to the public. So we consider this an outward-facing event. It's all online, and we've had great success with it over the last couple years. So plan for that the last Saturday in January. Mark McEwen has done an amazing job with a whole host of YouTube resources now, recordings that are online, and we've got hundreds of them now. So please, again, check those out online. Any programming activity that we've had is recorded and is in that file. And lastly, I'm going to invite Randy Isaac up. He has an exciting announcement to make, and I told him that I would give him 30 seconds.
Thank you for giving me 30 minutes. I think I can I'll try to get in there. But first of all, how many of you think that you've attended more than 23 of these annual meetings? Anybody? Bill. Yeah, Bill. Okay. We got one here, Bill Jordan, and no. A few minutes ago, Terry Gray and I were chatting, and we figured out that each of us has probably attended 22 to 23 annual meetings. So I think Keith and Ruth Miller have exceeded that, and they couldn't come this year, so they are listening on live stream. Hello, Keith. Hello, Ruth. We're giving a nod to you. So why am I bringing this up? Because for many years, Terry Gray and I have had a dream of getting all of the annual meetings online, the past ones. These began in 1946 and have occurred every year except 2000. And we have managed, and with a surge of activity in the last few months, we have managed to obtain and to post online the agenda and the abstracts for all of the meetings. So, effective this afternoon, and you should be able to do it now, and if you get bored, you can always check your iPhone and get on the home page. There are two places where you can find it. They're identical. Either under the meetings headline, you'll see all annual meetings, and under publications, you'll see also an annual meeting. Either one will get you to a page that will list every single year. And I wanted to just quickly explain a couple of the features of it. If you'll see the years, and you'll see the name of the place of the school where the meeting took place. If you click on that, you will see the agenda and the abstracts. For many of them, if not most of them, you'll see a few tiny icons to the right of it. There are three different ones. You might have to put your bifocals on, but you have to look closely. There's a plus sign, which will usually take you to a page with more details than just the agenda and the abstract. For the recent ones, with many thanks to Mark McEwen, who's done a terrific job, for the recent years, there's a little video icon, which will take you to the YouTube page of the playlist for a video of everything that was recorded. So you can see the video of everyone, but that's only the last few years. I don't know why he couldn't get the 1946 one on, but he'll still work on that a little bit. And then there's one more icon, which is a folder, and that has room for a collection of any other material we have for that meeting. There's a number of them, I think, from 1949 through 2002, those are just any publications. We haven't really gotten all the annual meetings tied up in there. We'll be updating those over time. But after, I think it was 2003 or 2004, that will give you a list of the links to all of the talks that are there. So give it a try, and if you're wondering what were the hot buttons in 1953, now you know where to find it. Thank you very much.
I told Randy that for every second he went over his limit, he had to pay us $100, so we'll be collecting afterwards. No, all kidding aside, really appreciate what Terry and Randy have done. A few weeks ago, Randy sent an email, hey, I'm looking for a bunch of the old program booklets, and Lindbergh in our office found a binder about this thick. And we said, Randy, come to the office and get it. And he's taken the time to scan them all. So we just appreciate, I know it was a monumental effort, but we appreciate what you've done, both Terry and Randy. Going to say a few words about our member services. Dana Oleskowitz is our director of chapters and affiliates. And we are training up leaders amongst us through professional formation and leadership development opportunities. Pleased to report that we have 36 chapters in the US and Canada, and that number continues to grow. That's about 110 leaders in the midst of all those chapters, because we have 3 leaders per chapter. So we appreciate the good work that Dana's doing and that you're all doing in your specific geographic regions. We talked a little bit about the affiliate groups this morning. Those are our disciplinary groups. And again, we started a new affiliate group of ministers, theologians, and philosophers. We're looking at starting an entrepreneurial scientist group, an environmental care group. So again, if you're interested, please go out to the registration desk, and we have a sign-up sheet. We'd love to get your name and be in contact with you as well. In terms of our membership, right now we're at about 3,800 members, subscribers, followers worldwide. And the breakdown you see is between Canada, the US, and other international countries. So continuing to grow our membership. And then next, I just want to say a few words about the resourcing of the organization. Mike talked a bit about the finances. The ASA business model is composed of dues and subscriptions, the programming revenue, investment income, and charitable gifts. And again, as Mike mentioned, 50% of our business model is charitable contributions, and we have a chart here on the left showing the giving over the last fiscal year totaling $435,000, and the breakdown is $272 for the annual fund. Took in $8,300 for student scholarships. You're going to hear in a few minutes a student testimonial and an appeal for the scholarship fund. We gave out $14,000 this year to bring the students to the conference, and we're looking to replenish that fund so we can continue to invest in the students, the next generation of ASA members. Our capital fund, some of you may recall several years ago we launched a capital campaign to purchase our office condominiums. We moved out of rental mode where we were for 35 years, purchased the office units, and we shaved our occupancy expenses by 75%. So again, that was a great strategic move that the organization made. The endowment fund income last year for the legacy campaign, we took in $152,000. So again, $435,000. You'll see the participation rates down at the bottom. I just want to mention that our staff and board are 100% givers, and we are really more interested in participation rates than amounts. And I think when you have your staff and board investing 100%, that really does speak volumes. The exciting piece of this bar chart here is the endowment fund. So take a look at that, and you'll see that in 2015, We had $290,000 in our endowment fund, and fast forward 8 years later, we've more than doubled that. And that is due to the Legacy Campaign Initiative. Mike mentioned we're in the middle of a $5 million campaign. We have gifts and pledges over $3.2 million, and a good chunk of that is planned gifts, so future gifts. People have given to the ASA and their estates, have donated retirement funds. There's a number of planned giving vehicles that 90 people have made pledges, 90 people, individuals and families have made pledges. And if you are in a position and feel led to make a planned gift to the ASA, certainly see Janelle or myself after. And we are really looking to build the ASA for the next generation and ensure the financial sustainability of the organization. And of course, as the endowment fund grows and we draw 5%, that is our policy, that is coming back into the operating fund, and we're able to use that year after year. So again, I just want to thank all of you. Many of you make gifts to these various funds, and we couldn't do it without you. So thank you very much for your investment, financial investment, as well as prayers and your time, all the different ways that you give to the organization. We are most grateful. And finally, none of what we've talked about tonight would be possible without this team of people that we have. And we are blessed to have, like Michael said, a very professional team. They're experts in their field. We call ourselves cross-functional distributed team, and we've really made some great strides over the last few years in professionalizing many aspects of the team in terms of issuing contracts. An employee manual was approved a couple of years ago. We rolled out a benefits plan for our full-time employees with health insurance and retirement. And so we've really come a long way over the last several years. And I just want to recognize each of these people. Michelle Pizzeni is an administrative assistant that works in our Topsfield office. Many of you know Lynn Berg. Lynn has been with us for 28 years, and she's attended, I think, 25 meetings. This was the first meeting that she did not attend. She has decided that she's done enough annual meetings, and she's off on a vacation with her sisters this week, so we're thrilled for her. Becky English is our Director of Membership and Outreach. She's the one that you have interacted with over the course of the weekend. We appreciate Becky's good work. I just want to recognize Cy Gart and Aniko Albert. They're the team that does God and Nature. Cy and Aniko, would you please raise your hand or stand? Oh, there they are. Okay, thank you. Jim Peterson is our editor-in-chief of the Journal. Jim, you are here. Please wave. Thank you for all that you do for us. You'll be hearing from Hannah Eagleson in a few moments. Hannah is our Director of Partnerships and Innovation. And Mark McEwen joined our team. There he is in the back. He's running all this. We couldn't do this without him, and we're thrilled to have him on board as well. And it really spoke volumes to me, and I realized that we had an amazing team in place when I was issued a sabbatical this winter for the months of February, March, and April, and the team did not miss a beat. Janelle stepped forward and provided wonderful executive leadership. Becky, Dana, the whole entire team came together, and it was as if I wasn't even missed. But in all seriousness, the organization wouldn't have been in a position to do this a few years ago. It's the first sabbatical they've ever offered, and I am just very grateful for the gift that the organization gave me, and it was because of the team that I was able to do that. So I just want to offer my appreciation to the board of directors as well as the team that came in and pulled all the weight while I was gone. So that is all I have, and I'm going to turn it back over to Janelle right now.
It's my pleasure to introduce the class of 2023 fellows. And first, what I'm going to do is introduce the ones that could not be with us. So first, Joel Adams. Joel is Professor Emeritus of Computer Science at Calvin College, or University now. He has an expertise in software development, computer operating systems, and networking. He received a series of NSF grants and has been the primary architect of 6 Beowulf-class supercomputers. He received 2 Fulbright fellowships, one to Mauritius and one to Iceland. And he is a Jefferson Science Fellow at the U.S. Department of State. So that is Joel Adams, who could not be with us tonight. Oscar Gonzalez also could not be with us. Oscar was born and raised in Peru. He was Associate Professor of Biology at Emmanuel College in Georgia and has recently gone to Anderson University in South Carolina. He holds a PhD in interdisciplinary ecology and has focused his research on tropical ornithology, plant-animal interactions and conservation, and has over 40 publications in English and Spanish. He has been the voice for a positive interaction between science and Christian faith. For example, he has given talks on such topics as Pentecostals as conservation allies in the tropical Andes of Peru. He serves as a vice president of a conservation group in Peru and also serves on the BioLogos Advisory Council. Angela Cantola. She is a wildlife ecologist who served as deputy director of the Upper Colorado River Endangered Fish Recovery Program from 1989 until she retired in 2017. This program received a Department of Interior Cooperative Conservation Award and is considered a national model that demonstrates public-private partnership that can work to resolve conflicts and conserve species. Her calling as a wildlife ecologist is driven by her calling as a person of faith to care for God's good earth. She facilitates retreats that help people rediscover God's presence in creation, and she's been active in a number of Christian environmental organizations and also the Rocky Mountain chapter of the ASA. And finally, David Lottie, who could not be with us. He has a PhD in moral philosophy and the philosophy of biology, as well as another PhD in ecology and evolutionary biology. He's associate professor of biology and an assistant professor of psychology. He does things in double everywhere. So he has more than 70 scientific publications that illustrate the broad and interdisciplinary nature of his work. And since 2009, he has run a behavioral evolution laboratory involved in rapid evolution, ornithology, anthropology, and cultural evolution. And he serves on the board of trustees with the Templeton World Charity and the Advisory Council of BioLogos. And then for the ones that are here with us, what I would ask them to do is to come forward as I read their introduction, and then we are going to give them their certificate and also take a picture. So first is Ryan Beebe, biology professor at Calvin University. His specialty is ecology and evolutionary biology with a focus on paleontology. He works with museum collections and has excavated skeletons of fossil whales at site in Egypt. He's been a speaker for BioLogos Foundation since 2016 and a SCIO, and if you don't know what that stands for, it's Scholarship in Christianity in Oxford, a visiting scholar with SCIO, and participated in SCIO's Bridging the Two Cultures of Science and Humanities programs. So let's give a round of applause for Ryan. There she is. Look again. Okay, thank you. Peter Bussey, who is here with us from the UK, retired in 2009 from the University of Glasgow after a long career there. He holds a PhD from Cambridge University in experimental elementary particle physics. He has over 1,000 publications of various types and remains an honorary research fellow at the University of Glasgow. He has had a long and distinguished career and continues his research in his retirement. He was describing it to me by Zoom from a distance. He keeps it going. Always a voice for a positive interaction between science and Christian faith. Congratulations. Thank you. I'm going to give this to you. Thank you. You got it? David Clements is Assistant Dean of the Faculty of Natural and Applied Sciences and Professor of Biology and Environmental Studies at Trinity Western. His specialty is invasive riparian plants. He has published over 80 scientific publications and is active in the Canadian Weed Science Society and the Weed Science Society of America. He's also the founding board member of the Christian environmental organization ASA Canada. Is David here?
He had to go away this evening, so he sent his regrets.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Rebecca Dielschneider is Associate Professor of Biology at Providence University College in Manitoba. She has a PhD in immunology and has worked at the National Microbiology Laboratory. She's published numerous scientific articles on the field of immunology and has more recently turned to research in science communication and vaccine hesitancy. In 2015, the CBC named her one of Manitoba's Future 40 Under 40. And she leads the CSCA's local chapter in Winnipeg and co-led the CSCA's 50th anniversary celebration committee, so she can relax when this is all over, I think. Congratulations. And finally, Dick Fisher, who has theological degrees from both Evangel Theological Seminary and Regent University and has focused on Genesis and the Old Testament. He joined the ASA in 1988 when he needed a place to honestly explore issues of faith and science and published his first article in the journal in 1993. He has spent his career serving those on similar journeys. As he would say, he has spent 40 years studying 10 chapters of one book. He founded the Genesis Proclaimed Association with the motto, Finding Harmony in Bible, Science, and History, and is the author of the book, Historical Genesis, From Adam to Abraham. And he also was instrumental in helping organize the local chapter in DC. So is Dick here? He injured himself. Very good. So let's give all of these a hand of applause.
It's a tradition at the annual meeting to recognize our long-standing members. And believe it or not, we have 325 members that have been members for 40 years or more in the entire organization, which really speaks volumes. And as Janelle and I travel the country visiting with people, we hear time and time again, one of the questions we ask is, how long have you been a member and how did you become a member? And I can't tell you the number of times that we've heard somebody has encouraged me to join, whether it was when I was an undergrad, grad school, a professor encouraged me. It's always a word of mouth, somebody encouraged me to join. And I'm always amazed at the longevity of membership in this organization. And so tonight we're going to recognize not only the 50-year members, we actually have 60-year and 70-year members as well. And in total, between all of these, it's a collective 1,370 years of membership in the organization. It's just mind-boggling. But our 70-year members right now are Robert Ziegler, John Osimchuk, William Pletcher, Don DeGraff, Rudolph O. Butler, Lee Isaacs, Fred Jappy, and with us tonight, a gentleman that must have joined when he was about 10 years old, Jack Richardson. So Jack, congratulations, and come on up and receive a certificate from us. Are you here? Oh, there he is. We have 17 50-year members, and this doesn't even include the 50 to 60. This is just 50 on the dot. And you can see them all listed. I'm not going to read through each of them. I do want to mention that Walter Bradley would have been with us this weekend. He and Ann were planning to come, and they ran into a last-minute passport issue and were not able to join us. They were with us last year in San Diego, and yes, let me advance the slide. In addition to that, I want to recognize tonight another member who is a 50-year member, and that is Judy Taranchuk. So Judy, please come forward to receive your certificate. It's also a tradition at the ASA annual meetings to recognize those members who have gone into glory over the course of the last year and leaving a legacy for the next generation. So I'm going to go through each of these members one by one and just say a few words about each of them, and then we'll have a moment of silence afterwards. Wesley Bentrude was from Sandy, Utah, and he joined the ASA in 2007. He was a chemistry professor at the University of Utah, and he attended ASA 2017 at the Colorado School of Mines. Yes, I do. Sorry. That's Wesley. Next is Richard Castor. He was from Federal Way, Washington. He was a 41-year member. His discipline was archaeology and engineering, and he was a Greek scholar who visited 22 different countries. Next is Peter Esser. Peter was from Smithtown, New York, and he joined the ASA in 1966 as a PhD student. He was a board-certified physicist in nuclear medicine at the New York Presbyterian Hospital. and he enjoyed teaching and encouraging students of all ages. Next is Owen Gingrich. Many of you probably know Owen or know of Owen. He was from Cambridge, Massachusetts, and he was one of the greatest Christian scholars of his generation. He got his master's and PhD at Harvard, and the Harvard Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory hired him after he got his PhD, and he spent his entire career at Harvard. He was a leading expert on Copernicus, Kepler, and Galileo. He had a very knowledgeable and rare collection of books, and Randy, John, and I have had the privilege of being in his home to view all the books. We also have been at his office at Harvard where he has the rare books locked in safes, so it was a real privilege for us to be able to interact and take a look at all his books as well. He also served as the PSCF editor for many, many years and was actually on the board at his death. I also have had the privilege of getting to know Owen as well as Randy and John too, and I visited them regularly, he and his wife Miriam, in their home in Cambridge. And I last visited Owen right before I went on sabbatical. He had transitioned to a nursing home in the Cambridge area, and I was thrilled to bring him a Copernicus t-shirt that I had gotten at the Museum of the Bible. We had been there for an event, and he was so delighted. His eyes lit up when I handed him the t-shirt, and he put it on himself. And so it was a real joy and privilege for me to get to know both of them as well. And he really gave more to the ASA than anyone else. And despite all his accomplishments, he was the most humble and humorous man I've ever met. So we will certainly miss Owen. Next is David McKay. David was from Bloomington, Indiana. He attended Kelley School of Business at Indiana University, and he worked there, actually. He learned about the ASA from Ted Davis. How about that? He was a 43-year member, and his interest was in apologetics. And he and his wife had 5 foster girls from Nigeria and Uganda. Next is another good friend of mine, Ken Olson. Ken was from Stockton, California, and his discipline was biochemistry, and he spent his career at Genentech in South San Francisco. Ken was the one that started the ASA Endowment Fund back in the 1980s when he was on the executive council. He was a 58-year member, joining in 1965, and I first met Ken and his wife Eunice back about 8 years ago at a gathering that Randy and I went to at Walt and Jenny Hearn's house, and we became fast friends. I visited Ken on June 5th when I got back from sabbatical. I had called him, and he had told me he was in an assisted living facility, and I said, "Would you like me to come visit you?" And he said yes, so I immediately booked a flight. And I was with him on Monday, June 5th, and we just had a delightful time together. He wanted me to bring him ribs. I brought him ribs. He ate them all. And we talked about family, faith, and friends, ASA friends. He and Eunice attended many ASA meetings, and I'm sure many of you know them, and ASA was a big part of their lives. And so we spent a lot of time in prayer, and or a lot of time in conversation, and I left him and we prayed together, and he died 2.5 weeks later. Next is Kermit Ratzlaff. He was from Hillsboro, Kansas, and he was a physiology faculty member at Southern Illinois University. He became an ASA member when he was a grad student at UCLA. And he was active in the Southern Cal chapter, and he's been a fellow since 1964. Kermit was our longest standing ASA member ever. He lived to the age of 100, and he was a member for 71 years. I had the privilege of interviewing him a couple years ago, and you can find that interview on the website. He led a very interesting life. James Roonan was from Noblesville, Indiana. He retired from Nokia Bell Labs after a 32-year career. He was a dedicated athlete, an endurance runner, and he ran many marathons and triathlons, and he became an ASA member through a Wheaton chapter meeting. And he was active in the chapter as well. Next is Anne Marie Throw. She was from Arlington, Virginia, and she had a PhD in agriculture and worked in Washington, D.C. She first learned about the ASA through CWIS in 2005, and she loved to encourage young women that science is a God-honoring career and for them to speak up about their faith. And I remember meeting Anne Marie at the annual meeting at ORU. David Willis just recently passed away. Many of you may know David. He was from McMinnville, Oregon. He had a PhD in radiation biology from Oregon State University, where he taught his entire career. He was a 69-year ASA member and active for many years, and he's been an emeritus fellow since 2009. So now we're going to take a moment of silent prayer. Ecclesiastes 3:2 says, "A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot. For our members in glory, Lord, hear our prayer." I'm going to invite Dana Oleskowitz up right now.
Thank you. I have the privilege this evening to award the Marie H. Berg Award to two CWIS members. I want to give you a little background on this award. Last year was the first year that we gave it to two ASA members who happen to be with us this evening. So Dot Chappell was an awardee, and Ann Hunt was an awardee last year. But let me give you a little background on this award. It is named after one of our earliest women leaders in ASA, Dr. Marie H. Berg. She served honor excellence, impactful women members of the ASA. Dr. Berg was born in 1909. She was an educator, researcher, leader, and advocate for the Christian faith. She received her PhD in biochemistry from the University of Heidelberg in 1934. And she held professional appointments at Hamline University, University of Minnesota, Northwestern College, and Metropolitan State Junior College. Dr. Berg integrated her faith and science daily. She always reached out to offer the gospel of Jesus Christ to others and served as a model for blending human concerns with our technical work. She became a member of the ASA in 1961 and was the first woman to be appointed an ASA fellow, as well as the first woman to run for executive council, although unsuccessful at that time in 1980. She served as the president of the North Central chapter of the ASA and was involved in the membership committee at the national level. In her honor and in recognition, of the impact to ASA, we will be presenting this certificate and a unique sister rock pendant made of Lake Superior agate. The sister rock symbolizes the sisterhood of women in the ASA and is one of the 3 that have been given to our fellow awardees. Agates are known for their colorful bands of microcrystalline quartz, but another thing that's wonderful about them is their translucency. This means that despite all the pressures that the sediments of these rocks are subjected to over time to form the swirls and the bands that make them well known and favored by the world, light will always find a way to pass through them. Equally, we recognize the many pressures and obstacles our ASA friends who will be being awarded this gift have overcome over the years to become who you are today. And yet the light and the love of Christ still shines through you as well. This light has especially shone over the service to ASA and the many new pathways that have been paved for the next generation. And so we thank you for the dedication to the ASA. And so this evening we are honored to give this award to 2 recipients this evening. How do I advance this? There we go. To Lynn Billman and Judy Taranchek. If you would come up. So I want to give just a little bit of information about each of these awardees this evening of the Marie H. Berg Award. Lynn earned a BS with highest honors in chemistry at the University of California at Berkeley. Her early career was in the analytical laboratories at Chevron, but in 1985, she and the family moved to the Denver area. She worked the next 27 years in various professional capacities at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, including strategic and capital planning, managing large research subcontracts, overseeing studies and modeling of energy. In her retirement, she has been active with ASA, her local church, and her favorite nonprofit called Project Cure. She became a member in 2002, a fellow in 2009, on the Executive Council in 2013, and she was one of the founding members of CWIS in 2015. So thank you so much for your dedication to the ASA. So.
You do Judy, I need 15 seconds.
Got it. Okay, so Judy. She is an associate professor of psychology, retired now, at Trinity Western University, where she taught for 26 years. She has been a member of the ASA since her graduate school days in the 1970s. She is an ASA fellow and served as the first woman program chair for the annual meeting at Trinity Western in 2004, and was elected to the Executive Council in 2018. She has been a leader in the CSCA over her career and is presently the co-chair of the CSCA 50th Anniversary Celebration Committee. And we believe that she was included in the conversation for the beginning of the CSCA. Is that correct? So she was one of the founding members of this 50th-year-old organization. Thank you so much for your dedication to the CSCA and to ASA.
On behalf of Judy and I'd like to remind you of what Paul said to the Corinthians. I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the growth. So neither he who plants nor he who waters is anything, but only God who gives the growth.
Hello, can all of you hear me? Good, I was told to hold this like an ice cream cone. which was great advice and is also a good reminder that the InterVarsity Emerging Scholars Network Ice Cream Social will happen right after this event, so please do join us for that. I am here to tell you about some student and early career events, but particularly to do some celebrating of campus ministers and early career folks among us. You can see this wonderful picture from last year's meeting with a wonderful student turnout, and we're delighted to have a very good student turnout this year as well. We may also have the situation where I don't know which button to press to advance the slide, so I'm going to call on help. Thank you so much. So our Early Career Scientist Award this year goes to Nyasha Gondora, and I will ask her to come up so I can present a certificate to her. She isn't. Please go ahead and clap. So Nyasha is a very impressive scientist. She is with the Canadian Institutes of Health Research. She has a PhD in neuroscience from the University of Waterloo. She earned multiple awards and scholarships in the process of her education. And she has also put in an amazing amount of work serving as the CSCA Executive Council member and an early career rep and working with the Waterloo chapter. And this year, she's kindly also agreed to be our annual meeting poster contest judge for our first student poster contest. And you'll hear the results of that at the InterVarsity reception. I've had the pleasure of working with Nyasha for, in a way, several years before meeting her in person due to the vagaries of the pandemic. But it's truly been a pleasure to work with her this week, and I've seen her desire to serve and care for other early career folks firsthand. So I would like to present you with this certificate, and I will hand it to you. And I would just ask you to all give another round of applause, please. Thank you. All right, green button. Other green button, success. We also would like this year to give the Campus Ministry Award to Dwight Schwartz, and I'll also ask Dwight to make his way to the front. Please clap as he comes. So Dwight is with InterVarsity Graduate and Faculty Ministry. He is a long-term ASA participant. In fact, he was one of the first people to welcome me into participating in ASA. And tonight he's representing not only his own work in multiple contexts in the Baltimore and DC area, serving faculty and grad students, but also his long-term connection to Emerging Scholars Network, a national network within InterVarsity that supports early career scholars and co-sponsors our early career and student track here. He has a PhD in chemical physics from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and he's used those skills in science both to remain very informed and engaged with scientific topics and to do 20 years of student and faculty engagement on faith and science, often in the form of one-on-one mentoring. One reason we started this award is that frequently when you ask someone, how did you get through a period of doubt about faith and science? Or how did you come to have a positive engagement in your faith and your scientific work? They say, well, there was this campus minister. And very often that campus minister was Dwight. So I would love for you to give him another round of applause as I hand him this certificate. Thanks so much, Dwight. All right, before we get to the next round, we have the pleasure to actually hear from one of the students who was able to join us this week. And so I'll ask Renan Dumalaan to come towards the front and share a little bit about his experience this week. So Renan is a PhD student at the University of Auckland, and he has traveled all the way from New Zealand to be with us this week. So yes, I think we should definitely clap for that. And he has held multiple roles, including teaching for 15 years, mostly in the secondary level science in different countries, including the US, the Philippines, and the United Kingdom. And he's also a visiting lecturer in physics and science education in the Philippine University, and currently in the progress through his PhD research on anthroposophy and spiritual science. So we'll hear a brief testimonial from him about this week, and then I'll give you a little bit more early career information.
Thank you, Hannah. All right. Good afternoon or good evening, everybody. It is a privilege being here. So I'm Renan, originally from the Philippines. I have 3-4 minutes. Okay, fine. So I moved to New Zealand to study my PhD. This is my second year of doing this solitary and lonely journey away from the family. But carry on anyway. So I'm doing my PhD I'm a high school teacher in science. My field is anthroposophy, or spiritual science, by Dr. Steiner back in Germany 100 years ago, or also known as human consciousness. So right now, I am focusing on the science education, which is one of the applications of this school of thought, because according to this philosophy, it is the spiritual realm, which is non-material in nature, non-atomic, that gave rise to this observable, measurable, atomic universe. So I'm exploring the interplay of how this manifests in teaching of natural science at a Steiner school, especially in Auckland, in New Zealand. So I'm very glad that I came here for the first time, because it's just impressive. Because for several reasons. Firstly, ASA and CSC, the Canadian CSCA, I think this is a tangible and measurable evidence that science complements theology. And it is a very good place for discourse in a scientific way, and scientific, academic, theologically speaking, faith combined, intertwined. So this is literally impressing, because it's not common to have this kind of conversation. But is there a need to attend? Is there a necessity? I would say yes, indeed. That's why I came here, spending $2,000 US dollars for my flight to come here alone. But I did not regret, because it's worth coming here because of this impressing, well-esteemed people from their fields. So there is a necessity to attend here, especially those who are online, because ESA is doing both realities, the spiritual and the material thing, understanding. And this is a very good place for me, because my literature shows that our journey on this planet is not a physical journey alone, but a spiritual journey that affects our maybe immaterial, in a Christian context, our eternal life, maybe. Yeah, so that's what my literature is showing. So that being said, ESA is doing this spiritual and physical understanding combined. So it makes sense to me overall to come here, and I really invite people to join. I really look forward as well to join next year in Washington, D.C. So I'm going to save money again to fly there. And yeah, on a serious note, I'll try to invite some of my friends as well in the Philippines, in Auckland, in New Zealand, to come here, because it's really highly academic and spiritual in sense, because I believe we are a material body made of atom, made of carbon. That's the science, but we have a spiritual dimension, our consciousness, that sense of beauty or justice, which is so far science cannot fully understand. So it makes sense to me that we as a human being has a human flesh made of atom, science, but a spiritual dimension. So it's impossible for me to dismiss that we have no spiritual reality. We have spiritual reality logically, philosophically speaking, scientifically speaking. So everything right now happening is making sense. I look forward to attend, and I also invite people to join and attend and save money again and donate maybe. Because as a teacher, what I'm going to do after this, so I'll be flying to New Zealand on Tuesday, is what I earn, what I obtained here is I'm going to use this in my classroom to strategize my teaching practice in the classroom. I think as a teacher in the high school level, I can change the landscape of education because of this. So it's really meaningful. So thank you very much. I'm talking too much now, but it's a pleasure and a privilege. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Raynand. I finally got the right green button. We are just delighted to have so many student and early career members and to have rising interest from student and early career members to come each year to ASA. This year we were able to give out 34 student and early career scientist scholarships, amounting to around $16,370. And we also have 246 student memberships in 2023 to date, as you see. And we're just delighted to have the deep engagement of students who are presenting their work, who are engaging with each other, and who are becoming part of our community. I'm so grateful every single year for the generosity of the ASA network and the joy with which people welcome new members. And we'd love to invite you to give towards student scholarships for next year. And in general, several students have told me how much that meant to them this year and how thrilled they are to be there and how interested they are to invite others. So we would welcome you if God leads and you are able to give to that. We have a number of ways to donate: cash or check, online at the ASA website, Venmo at American Scientific Affiliation, or online at the CSCA website via Canada Helps. Vicki, do we need any more details on logistics for this?
American and Canadian cash and checks. If you're writing a check, it's a Canadian check, write it out to the CSCA. If it's an American check, write it out to the ASA. So thank you. The girls will be coming around with the offering plates.
Thank you so much for your generosity and your welcome. And I believe that's it for the Student Early Career Update right now.
All right. Again, I'm Mike Beidler. Cy Gart is my co-program chair for next year. We would like to invite you to Washington, D.C. And we're going to show a short video introducing you to next year's annual meeting. So I hope that is tantalizing enough for you with the field trip opportunities, the plenary speakers, the explore on your own opportunities as well. Diversity. It's one body, many gifts. And by diversity, we're talking about diversity in many forms. Scientific field, theoretical framework, metaphysical paradigm, as well as personal characteristics, ethnicity, religious denomination, gender and age. And Cy and I, we desire to create a slate of plenary speakers that attempts to cover many of these forms of diversity to highlight the ASA's broad scientific and religious outlook, as well as this focus on working together despite our differences and using those differences to seek broader and wider influence within both the church and the scientific community. So as long as the ASA continues to keep Jesus Christ at the center of human endeavor, our differences can only enhance the diverse scientific and theological work of God's extended family, the church. So we welcome you to Washington, D.C. next year.
So that concludes the formal portion of the State of the ASA. We will take a little time now for questions. If anyone has a question, we also would like, after the conclusion, we would like any VIP is 40 years or more. I think if you have the VIP tag, we'd like a photo. Also, the students who are in attendance, we'd like a photo with the students. And then I'm not sure if there are any instructions for what follows. But we'll just take a moment now if there are any questions for anyone. Yes?
What are your mission metrics? How do you know that you are accomplishing what you say you are doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll repeat that. He's asking what our mission metrics are and how do we know that we're accomplishing what we say we're doing. This is actually something the board is working very actively on now. Even at this meeting, we're looking at we're giving the staff 10 or so dashboard metrics that we're going to track every time. Some are financial, income and expenditures, membership numbers. Of course, not everything that we really value and is important can be measured, but there are some measurable things that would tell us if things are going well or going poorly. And I can let you know more of what's on that list. What's that? Scholarship funding, the balance in various accounts, operating reserves. So there, scholarship, not scholarship funding, but submissions to the journal. We got a great report, actually. Who generated that EBSCO report? Was that the staff or was that Jim? Yeah, so the office provided the board with a list of all of the requests through the EBSCO database, and it was fascinating to see how many, which articles were requested by which institution. I was frankly amazed at the impact that the journal has been having in an amazing number of institutions, both Christian and secular. And that's just people accessing the journal through EBSCO, not through, members don't need to use EBSCO. So, anything else I should add about the metrics, board members or staff? Yeah, and how are we measuring members? So member engagement, we're looking at things like annual meeting attendance, diving deeper, who's logging into that, things like that. Again, we don't know, how that's impacting people's lives, but if people are showing up or not showing up, that tells us something about whether we're engaging the membership. Great question, though. Thank you. I'd be happy to share the current state of that dashboard conversation. It's actually a very active piece of work right now. So, any other questions? Okay, if we could make sure we have all the VI. Oh yeah, Veronica. Thank you. So for those online or who couldn't hear, I want to make sure I get this. Veronica is saying that we have a very active communication network, informal communication, and also the staff calling members and lots of communication that can't necessarily be measured, but is very, very active. Thank you. That's great. Okay, any specific instructions for what's following right now? Or just go out and have ice cream? Okay, so if we could have the students come forward for a photo, and if we could have, if you have the VIP tag because you're at a special, 40, 45, 50, if you're in one of those classes, if you would come up for a photo, we'd appreciate it. Otherwise, have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.